From middle school to the first year of high school, I went to a school in Miami that seemed like a private country club. The whole cheerleader, football player, clique-y thing there was terrifying. Those people were so scary. They're the scariest kinds of people because they are idolized by their peers. When I was in school, I was very involved with a lot of things. I was very active. I couldn't say that I wasn't popular. I was a cheerleader when I was in junior high. I didn't make it in high school, so I started a dance line. Cheerleaders deserve a lot of respect for what they do. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm not trying to pretend to be sweet and then come out and be bad. This is who I am. I was a real loner in high school, even though people assume I was the head cheerleader. We were so bad last year, the cheerleaders stayed home and phoned in the cheers. I definitely think cheerleaders have no fear. From the earliest age, I was just different. I think that's part of every writer's little revenge. You think, I'm not a blonde, blue-eyed cheerleader, but I'm going to get out of here and do something. I think a lot of Indians want Indian artists to be cultural cheerleaders rather than cultural investigators. In the world we live in, where we say we need equality, we don't think highly of ourselves. We don't give much importance to ourselves. We are cheerleaders of equality, but how much do we believe in it? Because if you do, then you will be the voice of change. I wish no teams had cheerleaders. I find it more distracting than anything else. As many Giants fans know, we're one of the few teams without cheerleaders. Most of the games don't let you focus too much on the cheerleaders, but I've been watching these girls. I have been a ballerina, a cheerleader, and a sorority girl. I was the girliest girl alive. I wanted to be a cheerleader, like my sister was. All the most popular and beautiful girls are cheerleaders, and I wanted that, and it demolished this vision of myself. That's when I found the piano, when music saved me. That's when I first attempted to write my own songs. I've been performing since I was a child. My mother would have to pull me aside and tell me that I wasn't on stage. I was a cheerleader, president of choir, and in the school play. I went to state in track, won the girls' city championship, and did well in volleyball. I was a varsity cheerleader. So you know, shoot, I've got a couple of letters and things. Last I counted, I think there were 8 in my mama's house. Journalists aren't supposed to be cheerleaders. First impressions matter more in basketball than in any other sport, and they can be savored only in person. Players can't hide behind pads or helmets, so we can stare at them, evaluate every move they make, running, jumping, walking, even ogling the cheerleaders. We can see every ripple and tattoo. If they're lazy, we can tell. I was terribly gawky, too goofy to become a high-kicking cheerleader, with stringy brown hair and bad posture. Definitely nobody noticeable. Hollywood is a lot like high school. Everyone was interested in what the head cheerleader was doing and what the captain of the football team was doing and if they were dating each other. I basically became a cheerleader because I had a very strict mom. That was my way of being a bad girl. I don't know, I always wanted to be one of those cheerleader girls and I never was that, and I was never sort of cute and perky, and I always thought it was fun to be cute and perky, and I don't know what those girls are doing now. For the women in California, they're just downtrodden because they're so gorgeous here. Every hot cheerleader comes to California to make it. The men don't want to get married, they're lazy lions. Matthew McConaughey is their poster boy so they can procreate and live on the beach in the trailer and have kids and have money and be hedonistic. I'm lucky because I had blonde hair for a while for this TV show I was doing. They had me dye my hair blonde, and every audition I was going out for was bleach blonde. The mean girl, the pretty girlfriend, and the dumb cheerleader. I didn't go to high school, but when I did go to school, I was actually in the group made up of cheerleaders. I just wasn't one of them. But I hung out with a bunch of different kids. In a rational society we would want our presidents to be teachers. In our actual society we insist they be cheerleaders. My mom is my biggest cheerleader. The actual cheerleaders in our film are all Broadway dancers. There was a lot of procrastination on Cameron's part because of the personal nature of Almost Famous. There was a lot of deep, dark doubt about even doing it. I don't mind being a cheerleader, but I did reach my limit quite a few times. I do my own writing, so I understand, but I was pushed to the point of anger with the insecurity of it. It's impossible to accept love from anyone else if you don't love yourself. It's a big issue, particularly for us plus-size ladies and for anyone dealing with weight, because we're not taught to love ourselves or be our own cheerleaders. I wasn't a cheerleader or the prom queen. I don't move through the world with a mirror in front of my face, and I've never been attracted to projects that had an emphasis on what I look like. Evanescence fans aren't the popular kids in school. They aren't the cheerleaders. It's the art kids and the nerds and the kids who grow up to be the most interesting creative people. Strength of 100 men. I'd probably just get mad and hurt somebody and end up in jail. I think invisibility would probably be the best thing. I could be like, you know what, let me just see what these folks are talking about over here. Then you could sneak into Rams cheerleaders' locker room. Here's the thing, back in the day, a lot of guys would make fun of me, that I would sing and dance, that I was a cheerleader. But I kept my head on straight. I had goals. My way was not to be the petite, gorgeous, little cheerleader. My way of getting by was making people laugh. Being famous is just like being in high school. But I'm not interested in being the cheerleader. I'm not interested in being Gwen Stefani. She's the cheerleader, and I'm out in the smoker shed. I just am a huge cheerleader for getting kids interested in science and technology. Artists are not cheerleaders, and we're not the heads of tourism boards. We expose and discuss what is problematic, what is contradictory, what is hurtful and what is silenced in the culture we're in. The BBC should not have a cheerleader. It should have somebody who runs the organization in the interests of the public, and that should be a chairman. Be your own cheerleader, because when no one else is your fan, you have to be your own fan. I just wanted to tell people that. I never wanted to be a cheerleader, I wanted to play football. Each NFL team has its own policy about their own players dating their own cheerleaders. And in the Raiders there is no policy against it, though it is not encouraged. Yes, there are successful relationships between players and Raiderettes. I was a gymnast when I was younger. My parents put me in gymnastics, and I was actually only good at the floor. I was terrible at everything else, especially beam. Unfortunately, you can't be a gymnast unless you're good at all of the apparatuses, so I became a competitive cheerleader. I was just the main tumbler for my squad. It's hard to think it's important to try out as cheerleader when you're starring on Broadway. But you do kind of miss the things that I now see my children doing. I'm just happy they are not actors. The Valentine's Day dance is really important. Pitching in Little League is very important. And the medals and the scouts are really important. I am broadcaster's biggest cheerleader because I genuinely believe in it. Where else can you get 20 million people a week watching NCIS or American Idol? Where else can you get 120 million watching the Super Bowl? Having been a cheerleader, I know all too well what these girls give up to join forces and compete. I was a cheerleader for 9 years. Even at 10 or 12, I was a hot, fast little cheerleader. My cheerleader part in Fired Up is really funny. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.